So welcome to Dear Blue Team. This is basically advice from someone with forensics experience to help expedite your capabilities within DFIR, DFIR, forensics, whatever you want to call it. So before we get started, the thoughts and opinions are mine and not those of IBM. The reason I say this is because I'm a senior security architect at IBM. Outside of the forensics world, I'm the 2017 DerbyCon Social Engineering Capture the Flag winner. My team, the Password Inspection Agency, got third place in last year's NOLACon OSINT Capture the Flag. I've got some certs. I'm a regular Forbes contributor. I'm currently under contract to write an OSINT and social engineering book with No Starch Press, probably fourth quarter this year, first quarter next year. And I've started offering some OSINT training via what I call OSINT Associates. So why this topic and this talk? Basically, in the process of going through SANS Forensics 508, the Advanced IR Forensics and Threat Hunting course, which is GCFA, I was reflecting on things. I apologize for sounding academic. At least I didn't say I was promoting synergy, right? But I was thinking about the things I had learned, and I came to the conclusion that some of these things you don't have to wait until there's an incident to actually do them. And if you do them in advance, it's going to make your life a lot easier. And I specifically want to say that this is not threat hunting. So that's in and of itself. We'll talk about threat hunting, but this is not on that topic. So basically, this talk is the outcome of those thoughts. So to get the baseline knowledge, just to make sure that we have a level playing field, what is DFIR? It's Digital Forensics and Incident Response. Often we'll actually confuse the terms incident response and incident handling. Incident response deals with all of the technical components, and the incident handling deals with it at a much broader level, dealing with things such as planning and the communications and all of that fun stuff. And that's sourced from SANS Internet Storm Center. So with the incident response process, the majority of what we're going to do here is based on the preparation phase. We'll do some stuff from lessons learned, a little bit with recovery, but the vast majority of this is in the preparation phase. So this process is commonly referred to as PyCurl. So you have preparation, identification, containment, eradication, recovery, and lessons learned. So as we dive into this, let's go ahead and talk about threat intelligence. So we have threat intelligence and cyber threat intelligence. If you're like me, the word cyber just makes your skin crawl, but it's the term for it right now. So basically a few questions associated with it. You know, where does this threat intelligence fit into our process? Well, in this case, with the process of this talk, it's not really going to fit in much at all because we're not really too concerned with that initially. Within the DFIR process, it's actually going to help you identify your adversary in some cases, or at least identify what you're up against in terms of what kind of malware, in terms of the vectors used and all of that fun stuff. Because, I mean, we're humans. We operate in patterns. We typically do the same thing. We wake up around the same time every day. We get out of bed. We go brush our teeth, hopefully put deodorant on. I've been to DEF CON, so I know there's a lot of people who don't. So if I ever start a company, my company swag is going to be deodorant. You heard it here first. But anyway, we do that, and then we get dressed or we hop in the shower. And I mean, we do things differently, but we all do it in a similar pattern. And basically, the threat intelligence is taking into account that pattern. So we have indicators of compromise that is nothing more than the technical pieces that go with that. That's going to be your mutexes, your regular expressions, any hashes or IP addresses or domains or email addresses associated with it. True threat intelligence that's actually actionable will take into account the tactics, techniques, and procedures, the TTPs of the adversary. So within that, that's taking it a step further. So moving forward, is DFIR and CTI the same thing? No. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? The DFIR or the CTI? The answer to that is yes. Because sometimes, if it's a known adversary, the threat intelligence triggers the response through your SIM or whatever, and then you go through your forensics process. In some cases, especially if you're in certain sectors, you will actually be on the bleeding edge, and you will produce threat intelligence that no one else has seen before. I like to refer to that kind of as the arms race. So you have your major firms and companies that are always trying to be the first to get the intelligence. So they've got all of their listeners out on the dark web. They've got all their honeypots, all that fun stuff, and they want to be first to drop it. So in that case, it's all a matter of who did it first. So when we talk about types of forensics, whenever I took this course, the only types of forensics I even really thought about was network forensics and file system forensics. I didn't even think about memory forensics. So with that, there are some tools you can use with this. And I'm a huge fan of like not talking about tools that are expensive, or even for the most part, I don't try to talk about only free tools, especially when I'm talking about social engineering or OSINT. So with this, there's still a lot of things that are free that you can use. So SleuthKit, Autopsy. Autopsy is nothing more than a GUI wrapper of SleuthKit. You've got Scalpel and Foremost, which basically help you with file carving. Volatility can do some stuff with it, but not too terribly much. That's not where you're going to get the horsepower from it. And then FTK, there is FTK Paid and FTK Imager Lite. Within the networking side, your big one is Wireshark. I don't know if you can see the sticker, but I got a sticker on my laptop now that's Wireshark do with the whole baby shark thing. But you also have things like NetFlow. Your IDS is going to help you with that, and something I'm a huge fan of, and that's Network Miner. So within the memory forensics world, you have Volatility, Redline, Recall, which basically is a fork of Volatility that's now maintained by Google, and then FTK Imager. In terms of the operating systems, your big ones are going to be SIFT and Remnux. There are others out there, such as Kane, the Computer-Aided Investigative Network Environment. I don't think it's maintained anymore, but it is still there. There's a couple others that I'm just not familiar with. And then to a limited capacity, yes, Kali can do it. I don't necessarily know that I would recommend that, but I have another talk that's called Social Forensication, where I actually weaponize digital forensics. So in that case, I break in as a social engineer, I steal a memory image, and then walk out the door, and I use Volatility. So it is in Kali, but I've done a side-by-side comparison of the built-in modules, and Kali just doesn't have quite the same verbosity and robustness that SIFT does. So I would say use SIFT for that. So in terms of threat hunting, we have our tools and techniques, our benefits, and the maturity. So in terms of tools and techniques, I'm going to say something that's probably going to be a major surprise, or probably not. The tools and techniques you're going to use for threat hunting basically are the same that you're going to use for a forensics investigation after the fact. You're going to use your SIM, you're going to use the tools, you're going to test for certain things, you're going to see what outcomes come from this. In terms of doing threat hunting, that's going to be forensics before the incident, whereas regular DFIR deals with forensics after the event. In terms of the benefits of it, it can certainly slice your incident response time in pretty dramatically. I don't want to say in half. It varies from organization to organization, but it will actually help you expedite that, and it will actually cut down on actual true incidents. So that's something to keep in mind. But the big key with this, and the reason why I'm not advocating heavily for threat hunting, is there's a certain level of maturity associated with it. Threat hunting is all based on finding the deviations from what is considered normal. Having been a consultant in the past, I think it would be very hard to go in on a, say, 40-hour engagement and truly understand what is considered normal in that environment so that you could find the delta. Sure, you could go in with some indicators of compromise and find a few things, but at the same time, you're not going to find quite as much because you don't know. They may have a job that runs on the 13th of every month that spikes their network traffic through the roof. If they don't tell you, or you're not aware of that, you're going to waste 40 hours investigating why they have a network spike on the 13th of every month. You're probably going to try to quarantine that software as malicious until you find out otherwise. So I always advocate doing that on an internal team, not having an external entity do it. So doing the comparisons with DFIR, there are a few prerequisites. Typically, the prerequisite to do DFIR is to have an adverse event that would become the incident to respond to. It's reactive in nature. In the US, Jason Street makes a joke that Brian Krebs should not be your intrusion detection